Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for attending today's Q&A session with Nova Entertainment. It's great to see so many familiar faces in the room, and I hope you enjoy today's session. So just to start off with the usual, I just want to run through some housekeeping. During the session, you'll be able to hear us, but we can't hear you. So if you'd like to ask a question, you can do so at any stage. Just click the Q&A button on your screen, type in the question that you'd like to ask and hit send. It's really as simple as that. So let's make a start. I have the great pleasure of hosting this webinar today alongside Kelly O'Connor. Kelly is the HR and Change Manager at Nova Entertainment and has over 15 years' experience working in HR. Kelly has contributed to and led the charge on some extremely complex and sensitive HR projects, most notably with organisations such as GrowCon, Suncorp and Fitness First. And Kelly's a highly regarded HR professional and expert in her field. So thanks for joining us today, Kelly.
You're very welcome. Great to be here.
Cool. Just to take you through today's session and the agenda and what we're going to cover, we're going to introduce you to the Nova Entertainment Network first. We'll then have a chat with Kelly discussing Nova's previous onboarding processes, how the HROnboard implementation went, and the impacts that HROnboard has had to the Nova organisation. We'll finish off with some questions from the floor, so please get your questions coming in during the session. We can either answer them immediately or we'll more than likely just wait till the end. So I briefly wanted to discuss Nova Entertainment and really what an iconic brand it is. And Kelly, please feel free to jump in and add to this summary at any time if you'd like. So Nova Entertainment is one of the most highly recognised brands in Australia. No matter where you are, I'm sure the Nova radio station is tuned in on your car radio. We're here in Melbourne and on Nova 100 I get to listen to my favourite footballer Jonathan Brown in the mornings. I'm a Brisbane Lions tragic, but tragic being the word when it comes to the Lions Football Club. And he's joined by the very handsome Sam Pang and Chrissy Swan. This radio station, together with the other radio stations across Australia, reach a staggering 9 million consumers every single week. Nova also has a strong online presence with more people spending time on the Smooth FM site than any other radio brand. And Nova Entertainment is #1 for social video views in the Australian radio category. So, there was no pressure on us to deliver this project at all. But Kelly, if you wanted to add anything about the Nova Entertainment brand, happy for you to jump in and add anything that you would like.
Yeah, look, just the only thing I'd add is on top of all the radios, which are quite recognisable, and you quite often see our street team out there doing promotional work, but also online and digital. But also, you may not know that sometimes when you're dancing as you're reaching for that loaf of bread in Coles, you're also listening to Coles Radio, which is Nova Entertainment as well.
So are you guys responsible for the down prices are down song that gets stuck in my head all the time?
No, absolutely not.
Thank you.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Okay. Well, just to get stuck into the discussion, Kelly, what sort of people do you hire at Nova Entertainment?
Yeah, so Nova Entertainment attracts mostly creative people. So they're your music lovers. We're very professional, but it's a very young demographic here at Nova. It seems to be attracted to the employer brand.
Yeah. And so what was the problem with your old onboarding process?
Yeah, so the biggest problem we had was paper. So we recognise the lack of printers in most homes these days, and the poor impression that it was making of the Nova business when we would send the more traditional paper-based pack for our new employees. We felt it wasn't representing our brand or our culture very well. And I guess aesthetically, the packs were daggy. They were inconsistent between markets, and each state we call a different market. And some of them had up to 65 sheets of paper in them. So, You know, that sort of brought about some compliance issues. There was issues around visas, policy acceptance, lots of contract variations, and forms not being signed before people starting. So quite often it meant that, you know, the packs were being built in one place and then potentially posted out to a home address, and it could take a couple of days for those to sort of be turned around. I guess the other challenge for us is that we are a geographically spread organisation with offices in most capital cities. But like most organisations, we have a centralised HR function here in Sydney. So what we found is we had a lot of delays. There was lots of people involved in the new employee process, and there was inconsistency in relation to the first impression. So the other key challenge for us was we saw the opportunity to start the acculturalisation and socialisation of our new employees prior to them starting. So really being able to sort of build some relationships with our new people before they even commence with us.
Yeah, okay, so that's probably resonating with a lot of people attending here today. And what did the old process look like as an overview?
Yeah, so the old process, like most businesses, starts with a new hire request form. Unfortunately, like most organisations here, it is also missing critical details most of the time that is sent to HR to prepare a contract. So the HR used to prepare a PDF contract and email it to a GM. If there was any changes to the contract, the GM would have to pick up the change and then email it back to HR to make the changes. And then, you know, we'd email it back again to the GM, so lots of toing and froing. Our contracts are quite complicated and we have many different agreements. We have our talent agreements, casual agreements, we have individual flexibility agreements and a whole heap of allowances. So the EA at each location would print the contract, have the general manager physically sign it and then pass it back to the EA, and then the EA would package up with all the new starter forms, the usual stuff, the tax forms, super information about staff benefits. We had a 40-page induction manual, and then they would actually post all of this out to the email, to the new employee's home, or send it via email. So then when the new employee was actually receiving this giant pack, they had to, or, you know, if it was not posted, they'd have to actually print out all the documents. They would have to write their personal details up to 10 times, and hopefully post it back to us before starting it with us on day one. I think probably more often than not, they would just return the forms and contracts after starting, whether it's usually on day one or afterwards. And then the business would complete the IT form and have them set up and purchase IT resources and set up on email network and stuff like that. So there's some delays there. On day one, the new employee would arrive and generally not know who to ask for. The contract had a manager, was signed off by the general manager of the location, but more often than not, it's actually another person in the team who might be their primary contact. And because we have a geographically dispersed team, their manager may actually sit in a different location. And then I guess as we pay monthly, payroll might not know of the new employee until their new starter forms arrive in Sydney office, sometimes weeks after starting, and sometimes missing the monthly payroll on the 15th of the month. So definitely not a great first impression for us.
No, not a great first impression, but it also sounds like a lot of work involved in just getting one contract out, which would probably happen on a daily basis as well.
Lots of hands and lots of delays.
Yeah, okay. So how did you start looking for an onboarding solution?
Yeah, so look, we looked across all of our HR processes within our employee life cycle. So we started with recruitment and we finished with termination. In particular, we looked at approval processes and any potential delays or inefficient handling that could impact the onboarding process for our employees. We spoke to our new hires about their experience, sort of what was ready when they started, what they were disappointed with, and what we could have provided them to help with that acculturalisation process into Nova. We identified the 8 key stages of the life cycle and looked to implement automation and improvement where it would provide us with the biggest impact.
Yeah, okay. And what is it that you were looking for?
Look, we were really looking for a new starter experience that really matched our culture. Our culture is full of technology and creativity, and we also wanted to appeal to the demographic that we attract, which is that younger, more tech-savvy demographic. So we wanted something that would dovetail into a preferred applicant tracking solution and provide a solution for our cumbersome approval workflow, provide some consistency. A mobile deployment was really important for us, as was ease of use and just that great new employee experience.
Yeah. And so we started working with you and the team at Nova last year. Why did you choose HROnboard?
Look, you're right. There was other solutions out there. We chose HROnboard because we truly believe it's the best product out there and the best of breed solutions for onboarding. We love that our new employees could sign on with us using their mobile phone anywhere, anytime. Quite often they're overseas when we want them to accept their agreement, so that was so easy. And we were also really impressed with the pricing model that meant that we could manage our costs of using the system.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you did look at other onboarding solutions. Why didn't they meet your requirements?
Yeah, look, we did both in the best of breed and also the enterprise solution spaces. We just found the HRO model and look and feel, and the project team were just so knowledgeable. Really took time to know our culture, which we didn't find with other providers. And these were definitely the selling points for us in the best of breed space. We also found out in the enterprise solution space, a lot of them had tack-on onboarding solutions, but it was more focused on process and forms and didn't have that focus that we were really looking for around acculturalization, social media, and the welcoming experience of our new employees. It was more of a pure delivery of contract service as an input to a HR system.
Yeah, okay. And so the next step for us once you became a customer was then to do the implementation of HROnboard. So what did that look like from your perspective?
Oh my goodness, it was very quick. That was probably one of the quickest implementations I've ever done. We actually signed on with HRO in November and we were up and running early Feb, and that actually included a Christmas break as well. So look, HRO were just amazing. They really sort of got to know our business and then offered us just a lot of great ideas that we might not have thought about to ensure that we delivered this amazing solution for the business. I've got to say, nothing was too much trouble for HRO. Their focus was not us fitting us into their product, but really making sure the product was going to meet our needs. The other thing I definitely a highlight for us was communication was great, and we went live exactly when we expected to.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. I know your technical consultant was Sarang, and lots of the people in the room have worked with Sarang, and I'm sure that they would fully agree with the experience that you've gone through, because he's one of our guns, definitely. And at Nova, were there any challenges in getting the wider team to use HROnboard?
Yeah, look, I guess like anywhere, people are really busy. Getting managers to do training on any system is difficult. We decided to do it on an as-needs rollout rather than sort of setting up all the managers in a room and training them on the system and then having to retrain them when we actually sent them their first contract, so they're actually using the solution. We did over-the-phone support on live contracts and packs when they used HRO for the first time. That worked quite well for us. Our managers absolutely love HRO. They really love that they can review and approve an offer on their mobile or anywhere, because a lot of them are actually out on the road. We set them up with a single sign-on, which I think was definitely worth our effort. It means that they don't have to actually remember another password. They can just use their network login to get into the portal.
Yeah, and we do see a lot of our larger customers do that as needs rollout, and it's a really successful way to manage that change process and the implementation. And yeah, I think it worked really well for you guys too. Yeah. And have you set up? I know we set up single sign-on, which has worked really well. But have you set up any other integrations between HROnboard and your other HR systems?
Yeah, look, we've set it up we've connected it to our IT ticketing system. So that just means that IT are being notified like the second that the new hire accepts. A job is allocated to like the appropriate IT support person in each location, and then the technology is sourced and all their access is set up before day one. So we do have plans and using a lot more delivering more integrations to other HR systems, but that's where we're at for now.
Yeah. And because you really only went live in February, and it was really exciting to see your first offers created and processed through HROnboard. If you could talk us through what the new onboarding system looks like, that would be really great.
Yeah, of course. Look, unfortunately, we still do have the dreaded new hire form, but everything else has changed, thankfully. So contracts are prepared by selecting a series of buttons on the HR Online form, which then compiles for us all the relevant details into the PDF contract, including what kind of contract. We have the two-stage workflow approval process, has cut down time and likelihood an email could be missed. More importantly, track the progress of an offer throughout the approval process, so we can sort of follow up if we need to. After the final approval, the new hire gets a text, an email, logs on and gets a great welcome, including a short video welcome from our CEO, and also gets to connect with a whole network of their new friends via LinkedIn. They get a map of how to get to the office using public transport or driving options, directions and times. Also, importantly, notifications via text and email sent to IT and our local office staff, GMs, the new hire, managers and HR at various stages throughout the process. So this is just ensuring that our onboarding now is as welcoming and as smooth as possible.
Yeah, and for those who use HROnboard in the room today would know that the new hires have that opportunity of providing us with the feedback about their onboarding experience right on that final screen. And Nova has received some fantastic feedback from your new hires. But what do you think the difference is?
Absolutely. Look, new hires are just blown away with how easy it is to use. They love the little add-ons. As I mentioned, they're young, they're the tech-savvy demographic. They love the CEO video and the messages and maps in particular. And I think they also love the no paper printing. And the flow through of their personal details on the required forms is a bit of a favourite. They do quite often use the connection with their new colleagues prior to starting with us, which is great. So they can sort of jump on and then they build relationships. They can be sent and review key documents and get a feel for our organisation, really, before starting with us. And I think the other thing is that they're impressed with how seamless it is to have the IT set up and have all their resources and their equipment ready for day one.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's really key because I think we've all started a position on the first day, and you don't have a phone, you don't have a PC, and it's just an all too common issue that really doesn't create the best first impression. So that's just a real good quick win for your new hires.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I suppose then what about HR and those responsible for creating and sending out offers? What do you think the difference has been for them?
Yeah, look, it's just so quick now. Instead of waiting up to 4 weeks for a final signed contract and payroll paperwork, which was commonly the case, it's virtually instantaneous for us now. So it solved a big problem we had with compliance around visas and payroll forms and signed contracts for employees before they start with us. And it's also sort of cut down those lengthy delays in getting those payroll forms returned before the pay cut-offs. And we can also track it at any time.
Yeah, okay. So you're really established now. You've got offers coming through the system on a daily basis. It's really great for us to see. What do you think will be next for Nova and HROnboard?
Yeah, look, I think the next thing for Nova is managing that pre-employment space. So we'll be looking to implement an applicant tracking system, which we don't have at Nova at this point. We're also looking at a new payroll system. So API function within HROnboard will become essential for the success of those further developments and projects.
Yeah, okay. And finally then, I know it might be hard to quantify, but what do you think the return for investment has been for Nova?
Well, I guess, seeing as most new hires actually decide whether they're going to stay with an organisation the first 6 weeks, and we all know the cost of rehire, I think it's paid for itself over and over again. I think the fact that it's a user pay system and we're only paying for what we use is very effective, because we can choose when we roll out the red carpet and where we might make some cost efficiencies and just do a normal email a contract out. So for us, it's been amazing return on investment.
Oh, good. All right. Well, I think that covers a lot of issues and a really good. I think it's giving everyone a really good understanding as to how what Nova's hiring process was before HROnboard and how that's changed over the course of this year. So I'd like to open up to the floor for any questions that you might have for Kelly or even myself. Happy to answer them. We've had a few come through during the session, so and I think these are for you, Kelly. The first one we received is when you commenced the HROnboard project, was there anything unexpected that cropped up during implementation that you were able to address?
Well, I guess for us it was when we went out to the different markets and said to them, what does onboarding look like for you? Just the inconsistency between the markets. We had people sending out out-of-date information, things that weren't branded correctly. Our marketing team hadn't put them together. So I guess for us it was really around that sort of consistency and also compliance.
Yes, compliance is definitely a big issue that we hear very often. And another question for you, Kelly, from Stuart, was HROnboard easy to configure to suit Nova's requirements?
I guess we didn't have to do too much configuration ourselves. Everything sort of came out on project documents that we were asked the right questions, put it that way. So we weren't experts. We were asked the right questions that challenged us internally to actually think about how we wanted it set up. Yes, Sarang was absolutely amazing, but there were other people in the team as well, but definitely the project team made it all very easy for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stuart's just followed it up with another question. Is HROnboard easy to administer now that it's live and in across Nova? Absolutely.
So I have administrator rights, so it's so easy. Really, the only thing we're using it for as far as administration is setting up new users. So every time a manager who hasn't delivered a contract before delivers one, we set them up, and so it's very easy to use. It's very intuitive. It's very good, plain English. I find it very easy, actually.
Yeah. Good. And some more questions that are coming in. How long did it take to bring in the new system, and how long did the whole project take as a whole? So we really began the requirements gathering in November 2015, and as you mentioned, Kelly, worked through, even taking into consideration the break across Christmas, worked through your requirements, configured the very first version of HROnboard for Nova. There was a testing period, and then you put forward your first offers. It was in February this year, which was really quite quick. So did you want to add to that at all, Kelly, in terms of how long it took, and were they your expectations as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we had a very rapid and aggressive agenda on this particular one, because we saw it as such a key issue for us and something we really wanted to address quickly. It was very quick. I think, the lead up start, the stuff before we got HROnboard and other providers in, probably took us about 4 weeks to really map out our processes and look at where we had those problem areas. Then, as you said, we signed the agreement in November, and I think it was actually end of November. I don't even think it was early November. And we were up and running in February after testing. So it was a very quick thing. We took a 2-week break at Christmas, and very quick. Yeah, it was probably the easiest implementation I've ever done, and I've done quite a few because I'm old.
Oh. Well, I think for us, we can also see a huge difference with implementations when there's a dedicated project team and you're working towards a goal. We find that it's an easier, faster implementation process that everyone enjoys working on, so it really makes a huge difference. And we're getting lots of questions in now. We've got someone's asking about the integration between HROnboard and LinkedIn, and if we could have a little more detail about that. Essentially, the LinkedIn integration is more of a plug-in. So when and it's not on this screenshot, unfortunately, but when the new hire logs into HROnboard, we've got a little widget, a little plug-in there, which allows them to follow the company. And it also brings up people that they might know across the network. So it's actually a really great way of putting some faces and some colleagues to the organisation before the new hire is even started. And it's a really great way for them to get engaged and following all of the posts on LinkedIn, particularly if you've got your organisation has a strong LinkedIn presence. It's a really great little plug-in to include. And you've seen the benefits of that, haven't you, Kelly?
Oh, absolutely. So, because I guess we're a smallish industry, people know each other. So it's quite a nice thing for the new person thinking, okay, I actually know some faces, and can identify those people straight up that will help them sort of get familiar. The challenge of that is, and what we're working through now is really getting our managers to prioritise updating their LinkedIn and posting some stuff so that when the new starters are looking at that it's quite an interesting read. But of course, we have our Nova Entertainment LinkedIn profile, which we're constantly updating. Yeah,
absolutely. And thanks for your questions, guys. There's some really great ones coming in. The next one is, what element of the cultural piece have candidates found most engaging?
Yeah, so I guess for us, it's probably the CEO welcome message, to really understand where Kathy sees the industry going and what it's like to work at Nova, as well as sort of seeing the sort of posts that go up for Nova Entertainment, either employees or when we're celebrating wins. I think that really gives people a good window into the culture of Nova and what it's like to work here.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question is, how long did it take you to do the workbook, and how many times was there back and forth between Nova and HROnboard? I'll let you take that one first, Kelly.
Okay. Look, it probably took me 2 weeks to really get the workbook done. And that was because if I didn't understand something, I might have to go to Sarang or the other consultants and ask them what exactly we were asking, or sometimes I'd answer it and get it wrong and have to go and redo it. As I said, I'm not an expert in sort of setting up modern systems, so some of the terminology wasn't all that familiar for me. So yeah, I'd say 2 weeks and I'd nailed it.
Yeah, okay, and that was working pretty consistently on it? I mean, because day-to-day HR issues can get in the way quite easily, can't they?
Absolutely. So I still had my national corporate group that I had to manage as well, provide generalist HR support too, and obviously the rest of the projects. Although we were focused on the HROnboard project, we're still dealing with calls from other people about other projects that are going on.
Yep. And a question from Robin, which I'm happy to answer, Robin. Does the onboarding process in HROnboard include induction of employees as well, or is it just getting them to their first day? Look, the main function of HROnboard is to cover off the transactional side and get everything prepared so that they do have a wonderful first impression and everything is available and ready for them on their first day. We do have tasks in HROnboard which some of our customers do use, which is something that they can tick off in their first week or their first month if they like. But I'd also watch this space as well for some pretty cool announcements we've got about what's coming up in terms of the nurture of each employee and those crucial first 90 days. But at the moment, it is really sort of, you can use tasks to get them to complete any activities that you need to. But generally, we find people once they're onboarded in HROnboard. It then triggers a separate induction workflow. Is that the case across Nova, Kelly, in terms of how HROnboard sort of finishes and ends?
Yeah, for us, I guess the induction process, all the information that we want them to understand that we would normally deliver through a HR induction is delivered through HROnboard for us. I'm very interested in that new development though, because that would help us with things like checking off things like legal compliance training that they may do. But we also do use HROnboard to get our employees to sign on to our core policies for us. So I guess that's something also you would normally do through induction, is explaining to them the code of conduct and IT and social media and all that sort of stuff. So we do use it partly for our induction process, but I'm looking forward to enhancing that in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll just take one final question, and it's from Matthew. How many people were involved in the implementation of HROnboard from Nova?
Okay, so I was the primary project manager. Then we had, more subject matter experts involvement, so finance, payroll, HR admin, and say a general manager and say an EA, just to get their feedback. But it primarily was just myself, with those subject matter experts brought in along the project to actually get their feedback on how we were thinking of setting things up.
Yeah, so you didn't have to go and try and find a large team of people to assist you with rolling it out and implementing. It was really just tapping into the knowledge of others and not having them to be heavily involved.
Absolutely. Actually, I forgot the key people. Probably the biggest involvement outside of myself and HR was the IT team. They probably would have spent half a day, just to give you some perspective.
Half a day in total, yeah.
In total, yeah. And that was really, most of that was around getting SSO sort of up and running and tested.
Yes, that was the single sign-on. So, just getting that up and running, and it's a bit technical, the single sign-on, so we always do get the IT teams involved when we're implementing that. But if they didn't have to do the single sign-on side of things, were they heavily involved?
No, so they weren't heavily involved at all. We sent them the specification sheet so that we can make sure our platforms were right, and that was about it. Yep,
cool, okay. Well, there doesn't appear to be any further questions at the moment. I'm just conscious of everybody's time and we're all getting a bit hungry. So I just want to really thank you, Kelly, for the time you've spent with us today. And I think you've given everyone a really great understanding as to the journey that you've come on with us and really how HROnboard has impacted Nova, including the HR teams and across the wider organisation, and it's really great to see that there's even more to come from you guys in terms of enhancing your HROnboard experience as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we had such a great experience with HROnboard, so we're absolutely thrilled to be asked for this opportunity. And looking forward to working with you guys long into the future.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again. Thanks everybody for joining us. Hope everyone has a great day. And Kelly, I'll catch up with you soon.